The doctor's words hit Marcus Webb like a physical blow. "Mr. Webb, I'm so sorry. Your daughter has stage 4 neuroblastoma. At 6 months old with this level of progression." The oncologist paused, choosing his words carefully. "Even with aggressive treatment, we're looking at 8 weeks, maybe 2 months if we're fortunate." Marcus didn't move, couldn't move. He sat in the sterile consultation room of Manhattan's most prestigious children's hospital, staring at scans he didn't understand, listening to words that didn't make sense. His baby girl, Sophia, barely old enough to sit up on her own, was dying. "There has to be something," Marcus said. His voice sounded hollow, distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Another treatment, a trial, experimental therapy. I'll pay anything." Dr. Patel folded his hands on the desk. "We've consulted with every specialist in the country. The tumor is wrapped around her spine and major organs. Surgery isn't an option. Chemotherapy at her age and with this progression." He shook his head slowly. "It would cause more suffering than it would help." Marcus Webb was worth $3.7 billion. He'd built his fortune from nothing, starting with a single tech patent and growing it into Webb Industries, a global software empire. He owned properties on 3 continents. His penthouse overlooked Central Park. He could buy anything, go anywhere, make things happen with a single phone call, but he couldn't buy his daughter more time. "What do I do?" Marcus whispered, "not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, just as a father." "Take her home," Dr. Patel said gently. "Make her comfortable. Love her. That's all you can do now." The drive home was a blur. Marcus sat in the back of his black Mercedes, Sophia's car seat beside him. She slept peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling, completely unaware that her life had just been measured in weeks instead of years. Her brown skin was smooth and perfect, her little fists curled tight. She looked healthy, normal, beautiful, but inside, cancer was destroying her. Marcus stared out the window at the city passing by. People walked on sidewalks, laughing, checking their phones, living ordinary lives. None of them knew that his world had just ended. The car pulled up to his building on 5th Avenue. The doorman opened the door. Marcus carefully lifted Sophia's carrier and walked through the marble lobby to the private elevator. The penthouse was exactly as he'd left it that morning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, art worth millions on the walls. Everything clean, cold, perfect, and empty. It had been empty since the day his wife died. Charlotte Webb had been everything to him. They'd met in college, married young, built the company together. She was his partner in every way. When she got pregnant, they'd been terrified and thrilled in equal measure. They spent months preparing, painting the nursery, reading baby books, making plans for their future as a family. But Charlotte never came home from the hospital. The delivery had complications. Massive hemorrhaging the doctors couldn't stop. She'd held Sophia once for maybe 3 minutes, whispered, "She's perfect," and then she was gone, just like that. In one moment, Marcus gained a daughter and lost his wife. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of trying to be a father while drowning in grief. 6 months of hiring nannies and nurses because he didn't know what else to do. 6 months of working 80-hour weeks because being in the office was easier than being in this empty penthouse with a baby who looked exactly like the woman he'd lost. And now, Sophia was dying too. Marcus set the car seat down gently on the living room floor. He looked around at the medical equipment that had been delivered that morning. Oxygen tank, monitors, a small hospital bed that seemed impossibly cruel for someone so tiny. The hospice nurse had set everything up before they left for the appointment. His phone buzzed. 27 unread messages, a board meeting in an hour, 3 deals waiting for his signature. Marcus turned the phone off and put it in a drawer. None of it mattered anymore. He knelt beside Sophia's carrier and unbuckled the straps carefully. She stirred, opened her dark eyes, and looked up at him. For a moment she just stared. Then her face crinkled and she started to cry. Not the angry cry of hunger or discomfort, the scared cry of a baby who needed her mother. Marcus picked her up, held her against his chest, and felt completely helpless. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered into her soft hair. "I don't know how to watch you leave, too." Section 2. The surveillance system. The security system in Marcus Webb's penthouse was more sophisticated than most government buildings. Cameras in every room except the bathrooms, motion sensors on every window and door, facial recognition software, live feeds accessible from his phone, tablet, or laptop from anywhere in the world. It wasn't paranoia, it was necessity. Over the past 6 months, Marcus had hired 11 different caregivers for Sophia. 11 people who came with perfect references, clean background checks, and professional smiles. And 11 people who had betrayed his trust in ways that still made his blood run cold. The first nanny, hired 3 days after Charlotte's funeral, had seemed perfect, warm, experienced, certified in infant CPR. 2 weeks later, Marcus came home early and found her unconscious on the couch, wine bottles hidden in her bag, while Sophia screamed in her crib. The second one stole jewelry, small pieces at first, things Marcus might not notice, but when a diamond bracelet that belonged to Charlotte went missing, he checked the cameras and watched her slip it into her purse while Sophia slept. Number 3 sold photos to tabloids, pictures of Sophia, of the apartment, of Marcus in his most private moments of grief. They appeared online with headlines like "Billionaire's Secret Heartbreak" and "Baby Without a Mother." Number 4 brought her boyfriend into the apartment. Marcus watched on the security feed from his office as a strange man walked through his home, touching his things, while his infant daughter lay vulnerable in the next room. 5 through 8 were variations of the same, negligent, distracted, more interested in their phones than in Sophia's needs. One fell asleep while Sophia was crying for 2 hours straight. Another left her in a wet diaper for so long she developed a painful rash. Number 9 stole prescription medication from Charlotte's things that Marcus hadn't been able to throw away yet. Number 10 tried to blackmail him, claiming she'd go to the press with information about his parenting unless he paid her $50,000. Number 11, the one he'd fired just 3 days ago, had been secretly recording video inside the penthouse and posting it online for followers and attention. 11 people, 11 betrayals, each one carved away a piece of Marcus's ability to trust. Each one reminded him that money couldn't buy loyalty or love, that people saw his wealth before they saw his humanity, that his daughter was just an opportunity to them, not a child who needed care. So yes, he had cameras, and yes, he watched them obsessively. Every night after Sophia was asleep, Marcus sat in his home office with his laptop open. He pulled up the security feeds and reviewed the day. He watched whoever was currently caring for Sophia, looking for signs. Was she on her phone too much? Did she handle Sophia roughly? Did she seem distracted, annoyed, or checked out? He rewound footage, zoomed in, made notes. He trusted no one. How could he? Everyone who'd entered his life in the past 6 months had proven that trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. The surveillance system had become his nighttime ritual. Pour a glass of whiskey, open the laptop, watch the recordings, look for the inevitable moment when this person too would show their true colors. He hated it, hated living this way, hated suspecting everyone, but what choice did he have? Now, with Sophia's diagnosis, the stakes were even higher. She had 8 weeks, maybe less. These weren't just ordinary days of infancy anymore. These were the only days she had left. Every moment mattered. Every interaction would be part of her entire life story, and Marcus needed to know that whoever was with her during those final weeks wasn't going to hurt her, steal from her, exploit her, or abandon her. He needed someone who would see Sophia as a child, not as a paycheck. But after 11 failures, he didn't believe that person existed. His mother, Patricia, had been the one to suggest hiring help again. She'd come to visit after hearing about the diagnosis and found Marcus sitting on the floor surrounded by medical bills and hospice pamphlets, completely overwhelmed. "You can't do this alone," Patricia had said gently. "You need help." "I've tried help," Marcus said bitterly. "It doesn't work." "Then you try again," his mother said firmly, "because Sophia deserves someone who will care for her properly during this time, and you deserve support too." Patricia had taken over the hiring process. She called agencies, conducted preliminary interviews, checked references herself. She promised Marcus she would be more careful this time, more thorough. 3 days later, she called him. "I found someone. Her name is Grace Thompson. She's different, Marcus. I can feel it." Marcus didn't believe in feelings. He believed in facts, data, patterns, and the pattern was clear. People couldn't be trusted. "Set up the interview," he said tiredly, "but I'm not promising anything." The cameras would tell him what he needed to know. They always did. That night, Marcus sat in his office reviewing the specifications of the security system one more time. He'd added 2 additional cameras after the last incident. Now there were no blind spots. Every angle of every room was covered. He pulled up the live feed from Sophia's nursery. She slept in her crib, her small body rising and falling with each breath. The monitor on her chest tracked her heart rate, oxygen levels, temperature. Everything looked normal, stable, but Marcus knew the truth. Inside that perfect little body, cancer cells were multiplying, spreading, destroying. He closed the laptop before the tears came. Tomorrow, Grace Thompson would arrive for her interview, and Marcus would watch her on every camera, looking for the same thing he'd looked for with all the others. The moment she revealed herself to be just like everyone else. Section 3. The humble caregiver arrives. Grace Thompson arrived at 8 in the morning exactly, not a minute early or late. The doorman called up to announce her, and Patricia answered, welcoming her into the penthouse with a warm smile. Marcus watched from his office on the security feed. He'd positioned himself there deliberately, wanting to observe her arrival without being present. He needed to see how she acted when she thought no one important was watching. Grace was a black woman in her mid-40s wearing simple gray scrubs and comfortable shoes. She carried a small purse and nothing else. No designer bag, no flashy jewelry, no phone in her hand. She followed Patricia through the foyer with quiet steps, taking in her surroundings without gawking or commenting. "Thank you for coming," Patricia said, leading her to the living room. "Marcus will be out in a moment. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "Water would be lovely, thank you," Grace said. Her voice was soft, calm, with a slight southern accent. She sat on the edge of the couch, her posture straight but not stiff, her hands folded in her lap. Patricia disappeared into the kitchen. Marcus watched Grace sit alone in the living room. This was the test. This was when they usually pulled out their phones, started touching things, looked around with dollar signs in their eyes. But Grace just sat quietly. Her gaze moved to the large windows overlooking Central Park, then to the medical equipment set up near the nursery door. Her expression changed slightly when she saw the hospital bed. Something soft crossed her face. Not pity. Understanding. Patricia returned with the water, and they made small talk while waiting for Marcus. Grace answered questions politely but didn't volunteer much information. She seemed comfortable with silence. Finally, Marcus emerged from his office. He'd made her wait deliberately, wanting to see if she'd get impatient or annoyed. But when he entered the living room, Grace simply stood and extended her hand. "Mr. Webb, thank you for meeting with me." Her handshake was firm but brief. She looked him directly in the eye. No nervousness, no false enthusiasm, no performance. Marcus gestured for her to sit and took the chair across from her. Patricia excused herself, giving them privacy. Marcus had his tablet in his hand, with Grace's file pulled up. "Grace Thompson," he began, his voice businesslike and cold. 43 years old, former pediatric nurse, worked at Mount Sinai for 12 years in the NICU and pediatric oncology, left nursing 6 years ago. Since then, you've worked as a private caregiver for 3 families. He looked up. "Why did you leave nursing?" Grace met his gaze steadily. "Personal reasons. I need more than that." "I lost someone," Grace said simply. "After that, the hospital didn't feel like the right place for me anymore." Marcus made a note on his tablet. "The families you worked for gave excellent references. Why did you leave each position?" "The first family's daughter recovered and went back to school. They didn't need full-time care anymore. The second family moved to London. The third—" Grace paused. "The little boy I was caring for passed away. That was 4 months ago." Marcus studied her face. No tears, no drama, just facts stated plainly. "My daughter is 6 months old," Marcus said. "She's been diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. The doctors have given her 8 weeks, maybe less." He watched for her reaction. "This isn't a long-term position. This is hospice care for an infant. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes," Grace said without hesitation. "Why would you want this job?" Marcus asked bluntly. "Why would anyone choose to care for a dying baby?" Grace was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady but softer. "Because babies who are dying still need love. They still need someone to hold them, sing to them, make them comfortable. They deserve to spend whatever time they have feeling safe and cared for, not like a burden." Something in Marcus's chest tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. "I have very specific rules," he said. "This is a professional arrangement, nothing more. You follow the schedule the hospice nurse provides. You give medications exactly as prescribed. You monitor her vitals and report any changes immediately. You do not bond with her. You do not overstep your role. You do not bring personal opinions or feelings into your work. Is that clear?" Grace held his gaze. "You want me to care for your daughter without caring about her." "I want you to do your job professionally," Marcus said coldly. "Nothing more." "I understand what you're asking," Grace said carefully. "But I need you to understand something too. I can follow medical protocols. I can give medications and monitor equipment. But if you want someone who will hold your daughter like she's just a task on a checklist, you're hiring the wrong person." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "You're the 12th person I've interviewed in 6 months. The previous 11 all seemed perfect in interviews too. Then they stole from me, exploited my family, or neglected my daughter. So forgive me if I don't trust warmth and feelings." "I'm not asking you to trust me," Grace said. "I'm just telling you that if you hire me, I will treat your daughter with the dignity and love she deserves. Not because you pay me to, but because that's who I am." They sat in tense silence. Marcus wanted to end the interview right there, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she didn't flinch under his coldness. Maybe it was how she hadn't made promises or tried to sell herself. She just stated facts. "There are cameras in every room," Marcus said. "I review the footage every night. If I see anything that concerns me, you're gone immediately. No warnings, no second chances." "That's fair," Grace said. "You'll have your own room here. You're expected to be available around the clock. 2 days off per month. Salary is $2,000 per week." "I accept." Marcus blinked. "You're not going to negotiate?" "No," Grace said simply. "I'm not here for the money, Mr. Webb. I'm here for your daughter." That night, Grace moved into the small bedroom off the kitchen that had been used for previous caregivers. She brought one suitcase, a worn Bible, and a photo in a simple frame that she placed on the nightstand. Marcus watched on the cameras as she unpacked. Clothes folded neatly in the dresser, toiletries organized in the bathroom. She hung nothing on the walls, added no personal touches. When she finished, she sat on the edge of the bed and bowed her head. Her lips moved silently. She was praying. After a few minutes, she stood and went to check on Sophia. Marcus switched to the nursery camera. Sophia was awake in her crib, fussing quietly. Grace approached slowly, humming something soft and low. She didn't immediately pick Sophia up. Instead, she leaned over the crib, let Sophia see her face, spoke to her gently. "Hello, sweet girl. My name is Grace. I'm going to be taking care of you now. Is that okay with you?" Sophia stopped fussing, her dark eyes focused on Grace's face. "You're so beautiful," Grace whispered. "Look at you. Perfect little miracle." She reached down and carefully picked Sophia up, supporting her head, holding her close. She walked slowly around the nursery, still humming, swaying gently. Sophia relaxed in her arms, her small body molding against Grace's chest. Marcus watched, his finger hovering over the intercom button, ready to tell her to put Sophia down, to stop breaking protocol already. But he didn't press it, because for the first time in 6 months, his daughter looked peaceful. Grace sang softly, the melody unfamiliar but soothing, something old, maybe a hymn or a lullaby passed down through generations. She touched Sophia's cheek with one finger, whispered things Marcus couldn't hear through the camera. After 20 minutes, when Sophia had fallen back asleep, Grace carefully placed her back in the crib. She adjusted the blanket, checked the monitors, and stood there for a long moment, just watching her breathe. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her hand gently on Sophia's chest and bowed her head again. Her lips moved in silent prayer over the sleeping baby. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He closed the laptop quickly, not wanting to see more. Grace Thompson had been in his home for 3 hours, and she was already breaking his rules. No bonding, no personal feelings. But as Marcus poured himself a drink and tried to focus on work emails, he couldn't stop thinking about the way Sophia had looked in Grace's arms. Peaceful, safe, loved. Things she deserved. Things he didn't know how to give her anymore. He opened the laptop again, pulled up the live feed. Grace was back in her room, reading her Bible by lamplight. The photo on her nightstand showed a young girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old, smiling in a school picture. Marcus stared at that photo for a long time, wondering who the child was, wondering what personal reasons had made Grace leave nursing, wondering if he'd just made a mistake hiring someone who clearly cared too much. But it was too late now. Grace was here, and for the next 8 weeks, she would be the person spending the most time with his dying daughter. Marcus took a long drink and told himself he'd keep watching, keep monitoring, keep waiting for her to show her true colors like all the others had. He just hoped Sophia's time wouldn't run out before he figured out who Grace Thompson really was. Section 4, the breaking of protocol. The first 3 days were quiet. Grace followed the schedule Patricia had created. Medications at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 6 p.m. Diaper changes every 2 hours, feedings every 3 hours, vital checks every 4 hours. Everything documented in a logbook that the hospice nurse reviewed during her daily visits. Marcus watched it all on the security feeds. Grace was efficient, precise, professional. She did exactly what was required. But then small things started to change. On day 4, Marcus noticed music. He was in his office reviewing contracts when he heard it through the baby monitor. a soft melody, no words, just humming. He pulled up the nursery camera and saw Grace sitting in the rocking chair with Sophia in her arms. She wasn't just holding her. She was swaying, eyes closed, humming a tune that sounded like something from church. That wasn't in the protocol. The schedule said feeding at 10 a.m., not feeding and singing. Marcus picked up his phone to call her, to remind her about professional boundaries. But Sophia was eating peacefully, her small hand wrapped around Grace's finger, her eyes half closed in contentment. He put the phone down, left it alone. For now. On day 5, he noticed Grace had moved the rocking chair closer to the window. She sat there during Sophia's morning feeding, talking softly about the world outside. "See those trees, baby girl? That's Central Park. In the spring, all those branches fill up with green leaves, and there are flowers everywhere, tulips and daffodils and cherry blossoms. It's like God takes out his paintbrush and colors the whole world beautiful." Marcus frowned. That definitely wasn't protocol. The schedule said nothing about nature lessons or mentions of God. But Sophia was awake, alert, her eyes tracking Grace's face as she spoke. On day 6, Grace started exercising Sophia's legs and arms after diaper changes. Gentle movements, carefully cycling her legs, stretching her arms, touching her toes. She narrated everything. "This is your left foot, and this is your right foot. Both perfect. 10 perfect toes. You know what toes are for? Walking, running, dancing. Someday you're going to dance, sweet girl. I just know it." Marcus almost interrupted that time. Because the doctors had been clear. Sophia would never walk or dance or do any of the things Grace was describing. The tumor was too aggressive, too widespread. These exercises weren't going to change anything, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way Sophia seemed to respond to Grace's touch, her small body relaxing into the movements. Maybe it was the certainty in Grace's voice when she said, "someday," like she actually believed it. On day 7, the hospice nurse, a capable woman named Diane, came for her daily check. Marcus listened from his office as she examined Sophia. "Her vitals are surprisingly stable," Diane said, puzzled. "I expected more deterioration by now." "She's a fighter," Grace said softly. Diane checked her charts. "You've been doing the prescribed physical therapy." "Yes, and a bit more. Gentle range of motion exercises, infant massage. I hope that's okay." "More than okay," Diane said. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." She seems, I don't know, more responsive than last week. After Diane left, Marcus pulled up the recorded footage from the previous days. He watched Grace's sessions with Sophia, these moments that weren't in the protocol, the singing, the talking, the gentle exercises, the prayers. He should stop it, should remind Grace that she was hired to follow instructions, not to improvise. But he couldn't deny what he was seeing. Sophia did seem different, more alert. Her crying had decreased. She slept better at night. And when she was awake, she was tracking faces and sounds more than she had a week ago. It didn't make sense medically, but it was happening. That night, Marcus watched the live feed as Grace prepared Sophia for bed. She'd started a new routine, a bath with warm washcloths, gentle lotion massage, a clean sleep sack, and then rocking while singing. Tonight's song was different, slower, more deliberate. Marcus turned up the volume. "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong." Marcus closed his eyes. Charlotte used to sing that song. He'd heard it drifting from the nursery during their happy months of pregnancy preparation. She'd told him it was the same song her grandmother had sung to her. "Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so." When Marcus opened his eyes, Grace was looking directly at the camera, like she knew he was watching, like she knew he was listening. She didn't stop singing, just held his daughter close and finished the verse. After putting Sophia down, Grace didn't immediately leave the nursery. She stood by the crib, her hand resting lightly on the rail, and spoke in a whisper that Marcus had to strain to hear through the speakers. "Lord, I know you have a plan for this baby. I don't understand it. I don't know why children suffer, but I'm asking you to be gentle with her, to let her feel loved every single day she has. And if you're willing, if there's any way." Her voice cracked slightly. "Please give her more time. Give her father more time with her. Please." She wiped her eyes quickly and left the nursery. Marcus sat in the dark of his office, the glow of the laptop screen reflecting off his face. Grace had been here 1 week. She'd broken protocol at least 24 times. She was bonding with Sophia, something he'd explicitly forbidden. She was bringing religion into his home without permission. She was doing things her own way instead of following the rules. He should fire her. But Sophia was eating better, sleeping better, more alert during wake times. Even Diane had noticed the difference. Marcus pulled up his research browser. He typed, "Physical therapy for infants with cancer. Benefits of music for terminally ill babies. Prayer and pediatric outcomes." He spent 2 hours reading studies, case reports, medical journals. Most of it was inconclusive, but there was some evidence, not strong but present, that gentle physical touch, familiar voices, and consistent care improved quality of life for dying children. Quality of life, not quantity. The doctors had been clear. Sophia was going to die. But maybe Grace was right about one thing. Just because Sophia was dying didn't mean these days shouldn't matter. He closed the laptop and walked quietly to the nursery. He hadn't been in there much since the diagnosis. It hurt too much to see the medical equipment, to know what it meant. But tonight, he opened the door and stepped inside. Sophia slept peacefully, her chest rising and falling steadily. The monitors showed normal readings. Her face was relaxed, content. Marcus reached down and gently touched her hand. Her fingers curled reflexively around his thumb, holding on. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "I don't know how to be your dad and watch you die at the same time." He stood there for a long time, just holding his daughter's hand, listening to her breathe. Down the hall, in her small bedroom, Grace lay awake. She knew Marcus was watching the cameras. She knew he was questioning everything she did. She'd been fired from this kind of position before, back when she was first starting as a private caregiver, back when she still hadn't learned how to balance professional distance with human compassion. But she'd also learned something important over the years. Some rules were made to be broken, not the rules about medicine or safety. Those were sacred, but the rules about not caring, about treating dying children like tasks instead of people. Those rules were wrong. Grace had lost her own daughter Lily 7 years ago. Lily had been 10 years old when leukemia took her, and in those final weeks, Grace had watched her child slip away in a cold hospital room where nurses were too busy and doctors were too clinical, and no one seemed to understand that Lily was still a person who needed warmth and touch and love. Grace had promised herself then, if she ever had another chance to care for a dying child, she would do it right. She would make sure that child knew every single moment that they mattered, that they were loved, even if it meant breaking protocols, even if it meant getting fired, even if it meant pouring her heart into someone she would inevitably lose, because love didn't stop being important just because time was short. If anything, it mattered more. Grace turned off her lamp and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would continue doing exactly what she'd been doing, singing, talking, praying, believing that somehow, some way, these small acts of love would make a difference. And if Marcus Webb wanted to fire her for it, so be it. But until he did, She would keep breaking every rule that got in the way of loving his daughter well. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. 3 weeks passed. Marcus couldn't stop watching the footage. Every night he sat in his office reviewing the day's recordings. He watched Grace sing to Sophia during feedings. He watched her do the gentle exercises, moving Sophia's legs in bicycle motions, stretching her arms overhead, massaging her tiny feet. He watched her pray over the crib when she thought no one was listening. And he watched something impossible happen. Sophia was getting stronger. It started small. Her crying decreased from several times a day to maybe once. Her sleep became more peaceful, longer stretches without waking, but then the changes became undeniable. During week 2, Diane, the hospice nurse, arrived for her check and stopped mid-examination. "Mr. Webb, I need to run additional tests," she said carefully. "Sophia's vitals they're improving. Heart rate stronger, oxygen levels higher. I don't understand it." "What does that mean?" Marcus asked, afraid to hope. "I don't know yet, but this isn't typical progression for her diagnosis." By week 3, Sophia was holding her head up during tummy time. Her eyes tracked faces across the room. She smiled, actually smiled, when Grace sang to her. These weren't things dying babies did. Marcus started researching obsessively. Late at night, he searched medical journals. Neuroblastoma spontaneous regression, infant cancer remission, terminal diagnosis reversal. The cases were rare, almost unheard of, but they existed, miracles that doctors couldn't explain. He watched Grace more closely. What was she doing that 11 other caregivers hadn't? The exercises weren't in any medical protocol he'd found, but when he researched them, he discovered they were based on infant physical therapy techniques, things Grace would have learned as a pediatric nurse. The songs weren't random. They created routine and comfort. Even the prayers, which Marcus didn't believe in, provided a calming presence. Everything Grace had said was true. She knew exactly what she was doing. One evening, Marcus found himself standing outside the nursery door, listening. Grace was singing again, her voice soft and steady. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see." Marcus pushed the door open quietly. Grace looked up from the rocking chair. Sophia nestled in her arms. "She's beautiful when you hold her," Marcus said. The words came out before he could stop them. Grace smiled gently. "She's beautiful all the time. You should hold her more, Mr. Webb." "I don't want to disturb her routine." "Her routine is whatever makes her feel loved," Grace said. "Come here." Marcus hesitated, then walked over. Grace stood carefully and placed Sophia in his arms. The baby looked up at him with clear, bright eyes. Not the glazed, fevered look from 3 weeks ago. She looked alert, present. "Hi, sweetheart," Marcus whispered, his voice cracked. "Hi, Sophia." Sophia reached up and grabbed his finger. Marcus felt tears stream down his face. He couldn't stop them. This was his daughter, really here, really with him, holding his finger like she wanted to stay. "She's getting better," he whispered. "Isn't she?" Grace's eyes filled with tears, too. "I think God is listening, Mr. Webb." The moment that changed everything happened on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was in his office on a conference call when his phone buzzed with a motion alert from the nursery camera. He almost ignored it. Grace triggered alerts all the time, but something made him look. He opened the camera app and his heart stopped. On the screen, Sophia was on her playmat, but she wasn't just lying there. She was pushing herself up on her arms. Her head was fully lifted, and then, as Marcus watched, frozen in disbelief, Sophia rolled from her back onto her stomach, completely on her own. "Mr. Webb, are you there?" The voice on the conference call seemed to come from miles away. Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The phone slipped from his hand and clattered onto the desk. Sophia was 6 months old with stage 4 cancer. The doctors said she'd never develop normally, that her body was shutting down, that she had weeks, maybe days. But on his screen, his daughter was moving, rolling, pushing herself up like a healthy baby. Grace knelt beside the mat, her hands clasped over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Jesus, thank you." Marcus stood so fast his chair fell backward. He ran from his office down the hall and burst into the nursery. Grace looked up, startled. Sophia turned her head at the sound and looked directly at him. "She rolled over," Marcus said. His voice shook. She rolled over." "I know," Grace whispered. "I saw it. Mr. Webb, she's—" "Getting better," Marcus finished. He dropped to his knees beside the mat. "How is this possible?" "I don't know," Grace said honestly, "but I believe it's a miracle." Marcus looked at his daughter, really looked at her, the color in her cheeks, the strength in her movements, the life in her eyes. This wasn't the same baby from 3 weeks ago. This was a child who was fighting, who was winning. He reached out and touched Sophia's face. She smiled at him, actually smiled, and something inside Marcus cracked wide open. Not pain, not grief, something else entirely. Hope. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He should have been celebrating. Sophia was improving beyond anything the doctors predicted. But instead, a dark feeling twisted in his chest. Jealousy. Grace had done what he couldn't. She'd spent 3 weeks caring for his daughter, and Sophia had responded in ways she never had with him. The smiles, the progress, the impossible recovery. It had all happened because of Grace, not because of him. He pulled up the footage from the past weeks and watched it again. Grace singing, Grace praying, Grace holding Sophia for hours, Grace being the mother his daughter needed, while he sat in his office and watched on cameras like a stranger. By morning, the jealousy had transformed into something uglier, anger, at himself, at the situation, at Grace for making him see how badly he'd failed. When Grace brought Sophia out for breakfast, Marcus was waiting. "We need to talk," he said coldly. Grace's smile faded. "Of course. The exercises you're doing, they're not approved by her medical team. You're giving her false hope, pushing her body beyond what it can handle." Grace's eyes widened. "Mr. Webb, the hospice nurse has approved everything." "I don't care," Marcus interrupted. His voice was sharp, cruel. "You're getting too attached. You're crossing boundaries. This isn't appropriate anymore." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you're fired." The words came out like bullets. "Pack your things. I want you out today." The color drained from Grace's face. "Mr. Webb, please. Sophia is improving. Let me stay until—" "She's not improving," Marcus said harshly. "You're just delaying the inevitable, and I won't have you bonding with her like she's yours when she's not. She's my daughter. Mine." Grace looked down at Sophia in her arms. The baby had started to fuss, sensing the tension. "You're right," Grace said quietly. "She is your daughter, but I've cared for her like she was mine, and she deserves better than a father who watches her life through cameras instead of living it with her." Marcus felt the words like a slap. "Get out!" Grace's hands trembled as she handed Sophia to him. The baby immediately started crying, reaching back toward Grace. "I'm sorry, sweet girl," Grace whispered, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry." She walked to her room, packed her single suitcase, and left without another word. The apartment fell silent except for Sophia's screaming. Sophia cried for 3 days straight. She refused bottles, barely slept. Her improvements stopped. The vitals that had been climbing began to drop again. It was like watching her slip backward into the darkness Marcus had thought they'd escaped. On the fourth day, Diane arrived and examined Sophia with increasing concern. "What happened?" she asked. "Where's Grace?" "I fired her," Marcus said. Diane's face hardened. "Why would you do that? She was the best thing that happened to this baby." "I had my reasons." "Well, your reasons are killing your daughter," Diane said bluntly. "Sophia needs Grace. Whatever was working, it's gone now. If you don't fix this, Mr. Webb, you're going to lose her." After Diane left, Marcus sat alone in the nursery holding his inconsolable daughter. Patricia came by and found him there, tears streaming down his face. "I destroyed the only good thing in her life," Marcus whispered. "I was jealous that Grace could help her when I couldn't. And now Sophia is paying for my pride." Patricia put her hand on his shoulder. "Then fix it. Go get Grace back. What if she won't come? Then you beg." Marcus found Grace's address in her employment file. It led him to a modest apartment building in Queens, far from the wealth of Manhattan. He knocked on her door, his heart pounding. Grace opened it, surprised. Her eyes were red from crying. "Mr. Webb." "I'm sorry," Marcus said immediately. "I was wrong, completely wrong. I fired you because I was jealous that you were the mother Sophia needed, and I was too broken to be the father she deserved." Grace's expression softened, but she didn't speak. "Sophia is getting worse," Marcus continued, his voice breaking. "She needs you. I need you. Please come back, not as an employee, as family." "You hurt me," Grace said quietly. "You humiliated me and dismissed everything I'd done." "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my daughter's life making that right if you let me. But please, Grace, come back." Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I'll come back, but things change. You stop hiding in your office. You hold your daughter. You be present." "I promise," Marcus said. Grace returned that evening. When she walked through the door, Sophia's cries stopped instantly. The baby reached for her, and Grace gathered her close. "I'm here, sweet girl," Grace whispered. "I'm here." True to his word, Marcus changed. He worked from home, held Sophia during feedings, learned the songs Grace sang. He stopped watching life through cameras and started living it. And Sophia continued to improve. 6 weeks after Grace returned, Dr. Patel requested an emergency appointment. He ran comprehensive tests, blood work, scans, imaging. When the results came back, he called Marcus and Grace into his office with an expression of complete bewilderment. "The tumor is shrinking," he said slowly. "Significantly. I've consulted with 4 specialists. We're all seeing the same thing. This shouldn't be possible, but it's happening." Marcus grabbed Grace's hand. She was crying, thanking God in whispers. "We're starting her on a new treatment protocol," Dr. Patel continued. "I believe we can save her." 1 year later, Sophia took her first steps in Central Park. Grace walked beside her, holding her hand. Marcus filmed it on his phone, tears streaming down his face. Sophia was cancer-free. The doctors called it spontaneous remission, a medical miracle they couldn't explain. But Marcus knew the truth. Love had saved his daughter. Not money, not medicine alone, but love. Fierce, faithful, unconditional love from a woman who'd refused to give up. That evening, as they celebrated Sophia's 2nd birthday, Marcus raised a glass. "To Grace," he said, "who taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up and stays." Grace smiled, Sophia on her lap. "To second chances," she said quietly, and everyone knew she meant more than just Sophia's life. She meant all of them, learning how to love when everything seemed lost, learning that miracles happen not through power or wealth, but through the quiet, persistent choice to believe in hope when the world says there is none. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.